There were a variety of demos to try during Steam's Farming Next Fest, so much so that I need to explain further, but that's after this title card. Hi guys, this is my first video like this where you can actually really see my face, and to say I'm a bit nervous would be an understatement, and I'm going to make mistakes, like I said, first time. But yeah, let's actually crack on with the video. Thanks for watching anyway. Alright, with the title card and everything out the way, it's time to explain. Now, I'm sure many of you are thinking Stardew Valley imitations when I say Farming Next Fest, and you'd be right, but you'd also be wrong. Steam has included any game that has farming as a main mechanic, which means you have your Stardew Valleys and your Story of Seasons, but it also includes things like survival, town building, and action-adventure games. That's why this is titled 5 of my favourite Farming Next Fest games, because with the degree of variety out there, it means it would be impossible to do a proper list. That's why it doesn't say the 5 best. So the games I'm going to talk about are in no particular order, and I'll have a few honourable mentions at the end, that the ones that didn't really make my list, but were interesting enough that I wanted to speak about them anyway. Alright, let's crack on. I thought I would start off with the game that is most like what people would expect from a farming fest. Cornucopia starts with the main character inheriting the farm. I'm sure everyone's like, yes, this old chestnut. I did say I was starting off the one that's most like what people will expect. I didn't mention though that your character was frozen in a block of ice 100 years ago, so that's new. You have your standard farming equipment given to your character. There's livestock to take care of, wood to chop as well as rocks to destroy, and of course a fishing minigame. This is all standard fare for farming games, so what makes Cornucopia different? Well, let's start with the farming. Unlike other farming games where there is normal or good soil, Cornucopia has a variety of soil types, including sand, silt, loam, and others. Players need to inspect the land to find out what the soil is and try to match it with the crop that prefers that type. Depending on how much they match, the quality of the crop will improve. But that's not all the farmer needs to worry about. Certain crops will prefer higher nitrogen content, others may like more phosphorus. Different types of fertilizers will have different nutrients, so pairing the one the crops like most is very important. Now, I genuinely thought I would find all this a bother, especially as when you first start off, you are stuck planting crops where the ground is favourable for them. Instead, I found myself enjoying figuring out what went where and was even planning where I would later place my plots. Sandy soil here, silt there, loam in the middle. It added an extra layer of organisation that my OCD mind craved. There are supposed to be a lot of other things that make Cornucopia different, like special pet actions and the ability to take characters on dates, but I didn't really get far enough in the demo for any of those things to make an impact on me. I don't really care for the dating stuff anyway, but the interesting farming that reflects real life certainly left a good impression on me. Alright, let's go for something completely different for the next one. I downloaded Haven Dock because it was one of the most popular game downloads, and I honestly didn't expect much. Boy, was I wrong. Haven Dock is a town building game set above the sea. Yes, I know it sounds odd. In Haven Dock, your character builds docks above the water, expanding one space at a time. They can do this by collecting the debris that floats past their docks. I can hear you asking, what's this got to do with farming? Don't worry, we're getting there. Crafting is an important part of the game as expansion, and a little thing called survival depends on it. The first thing that's crafted beyond more docks is a water filter and then a farm. If you're wondering how on earth this can be done, I'm getting there! Leaves can be picked up as a material, and that's used for the water. Wood is used to make a birdhouse, and offering fish makes them appear faster. Birds poop on the birdhouse, which drops seeds, allowing the player to get the seeds. It's actually quite impressive. And then you find out you can grow hamburgers. This game doesn't take itself seriously, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. I'm sure being able to have light up hair and ridiculous accessories probably helped. As the living dock expands, other survivors will show up. Some will ask for clean water, some will ask for food. One was impressed with my dance floor and said something like, heck yeah, I'll live here. Yes, I have a dance floor, don't ask me how I made it, but I needed to keep my workers happy somehow. Residents. Because you can assign them jobs, so your character isn't running around like a headless chook. Luckily, your character doesn't need sleep, that's for the weak. They might complain about hunger and thirst though. I'm not sure if Haven Dock has a story because your character remembers nothing. The first person that survives mentions a plane crash, but aside from that, no one else says anything beyond, "I'm glad to be off that boat." Is that character correct? Or is your character correct in assuming they have a mental illness? You won't know unless you play it. Alright, for the next demo, let's pivot in the other direction. The adventure of Ikanai Island starts off when 4 ignored kids see an injustice being done in front of them and decide to act. Witnessing the pirates offloading creatures in cages spurs them into action, attempting to free the animals. This wasn't the smartest plan, and the pirates changed their targets from the animals to the kids. Luckily for them, the narrator saw their plight and decided to help them out by leaving them a raft. I'm not sure if leaving a raft is actually helping, or is a subtle way to control the actions of the kids. Anyway, they take the raft out onto the seas, and if you're thinking, that's a terrible idea, rafts aren't normally seaworthy, you'd be right. The raft breaks up and the kids wash ashore on the island of Ikanai, ready to start a new adventure. Ikanai Island is a narrative-driven action-adventure game, so farming is not the most important aspect of the game, unlike many of the other farming-based games. Farming still has its place as there is combat in the game and food is how you heal. Taming animals will help not just with farming but also with combat. Crafting is integral as the game's main story is that is the only way to restore the island to its former glory is to repair the shrines that have been broken with time. I really enjoyed what I played of Ikanai Island, and it seems that the developers would like people to play the game in a way that makes them happy. I believe I played an hour of the demo and immediately put it on my Steam wishlist because I liked it so much. The fact that it's multiplayer is even better. There's a mechanic where placing frogs on statues' heads will give the player advice, hints, or history of the area. One told me that a talking frog is daft and that it was the statue talking through the frog. Ah yes, that makes so much more sense. But this little interaction should give people an idea of what the game's like. Right, we're going to go back towards something a little more standard for the next game. Do you like dinosaurs? I do. So, Paleopines was something I had a mild interest in when I saw it, but I assumed it was just Stardew Valley with dinosaurs. I wasn't completely wrong in my assumption, but I was definitely wrong about how much I would like it. It had me hooked from the opening. They were targeting those with pets and their emotions, and they got me hook, line and sinker. The opening shows that Dinosaur Lucky growing up and no longer fitting in his favourite places. As he gets bigger, he starts to knock over things in the house. Unintentionally, he's just too big. Feeling the companion's unease, the main character moves to Paleopines to give Lucky the space and the life that they deserve. Paleopines focus more on the ranching side of farming, but what I really enjoyed was the fact that the dinosaurs can help. Your character needs to take care of the stuff that requires finesse, like using the hoe or the watering can, but Lucky can make short work of the debris. They also double as transport. I had to stop playing not long after I got the flute, but I was really excited to charm all the dinos into being my friends. There's a story about the island and the things that need to be fixed, but who cares about that when you can have dinosaur friends? Wait, fixing up paths mean new areas, which means new dino friends. Right. Should probably move on to the next game, eh? I'm going to be completely honest and admit that I just like Kataria Fable's style. I was immediately drawn to the main character, who is an anthropomorphic cat, and I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but like Ikanai, Kataria is an action-adventure game with farming elements rather than a straight-up farming game. The story of Kataria is that 2 soldiers are sent to investigate the area around Poor Town as the monsters are acting aggressively. It's something that is completely out of character for them. There's only one instance of the monsters turning aggressive before, and it had massive repercussions for the entire Kataria Empire. So 2 young knights set out for Poor Village, staying on the farm that their grandfather used to live on. As they set out to investigate the cause, they find out that they can use magic, something that was banned in the Empire. This is because the Empire believed that the use of magic somehow caused the monsters to turn aggressive last time. Let's be honest here, much of the game will be questing and fighting, but the real-time combat does feel good. It's also flexible, allowing players to decide how they want to play, whether they decide to focus on melee, range, magic, or a combination of the 3. The main part farming plays is for provisions, while gathering wood and ores can allow players to upgrade their gear. Unfortunately, I didn't get that far in the demo to find out how that worked. I didn't even get to farm really, but what I did get to play left an impression on me. I was immediately drawn into the narrative and I liked the characters I had encountered. It's closer to Rune Factory than Story of Seasons. And that's my 5 favourite demos from the Farming Next Fest. Just kidding, I have some notable games that I want to mention that didn't make the list. Immortal Life is just like many other farming games, except it's set in China, where a martial arts sect has invited your character to take over their farm. The character arrives as 7 others show up for a chance to be part of this legendary sect. During the selection, however, a cataclysmic event hits the sect, leaving one pseudo-member, a severely injured member, the 7 hopefuls, and your character. Left without much of an option, they decide to rebuild the sect from the ground up. Normally farming games take place in what looks like an American town, so it's nice to see something set somewhere else for a change. The unique setting leads to some interesting tools. The watering can, which is a gourd in Immortal Life, can be used to summon a rain cloud that can water the crops rather than watering one at a time. I'm surprised that more farming games don't have watering spells like this. The other thing that impressed me was the cooking minigame, which was far more involved than I expected and reminded me a lot of Overcooked. Have you ever heard of a farming horror game? Me neither until I played the Harvest Island demo. The Steam page makes the game look like another Stardew Valley copy, but that's just to lull potential players into a false sense of security. The game starts in a village just like any other farming game. Upon speaking to the other villagers though, they all say something along the lines of, "You're very paranoid these days." A villager asks the character to put an idol on the offering to the gods, but your character doesn't believe in the gods and scoffs at them. It portrays something that feels familiar while also feeling somewhat off. I followed the prompts from the game and ended up under a windmill trapped. I was horribly confused when the next day, instead of being the woman in her 20s, I was now playing a teenage boy. I kept playing because what else could I do? Later I figured out that when the boy goes to sleep, the game goes back to the female character to progress their story. I didn't get to find out how the 2 characters were connected, but I was incredibly intrigued by the story and it stood out to me for that reason. Swords and Magic and Stuff was the only voxel game that was within the top 23 farming demos. That really stood out to me, but as I played, I realised that it was very much an action-adventure game, most likely influenced by The Legend of Zelda's Wind Waker. There was a little bit of farming in the game, but it was very much about the combat, story and exploration. It felt more like playing Spyro than a farming game. Despite not being much of a farming game, I did enjoy the combat and where the game was going. The demo cuts out once you get to the glider and you can leave the prison island. I was disappointed that the demo was so short. I added it because I enjoyed the demo, but I barely recall any farming at all. RoboPlant is an automation game where players need to grow and ship out produce on their farm. Each level is like a puzzle where players get a set amount of time and money to hire the robots, build the warehouse and facilities as well as the supplies. For example, the first puzzle is shipping out 200 lettuce and 200 mint. I had lettuce seedlings, young plants and mature plants all in one building, while the 3 mint varieties were in another one. My robots were overworked, so I ordered more robots, but then the facilities were lacking, so I had to add more to that. At one point I ran out of supplies and didn't realise I needed to order more through rocket delivery, so there were a few days when everything was screaming at me and I had no idea what was happening. I didn't hate the game, but I didn't love it either, and I could see myself getting stuck in the later levels. I included this game because I haven't seen an automated farming game before, and it is probably a good game for the people who enjoy this sort of thing, which I like in tiny doses. The banner for Farmer's Life on Steam looks like the farmer has been on crack, and the actual game isn't too far off. However, instead of crack, the main character fought in the Second World War and hasn't seen his brother since. To deal with the trauma of what happened, he sunk deep into alcohol to forget. The tutorial of Farmer's Life is given to you by the farmer's pig Fluffy. Fluffy's insistence causes the farmer to try and get the farm back into shape so they have a semblance of a life. Farmer's Life was too simulator for me to really enjoy, but I like the story direction, and who doesn't want a tutorial given to them by a pig? For its absurdity, it was added to the list of special mentions. And that's my 5 favourite demos from the Steam Farming Next Fest, plus some extras. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share it round, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out player2.net.au for more content like this. Thank you for watching my video. Bye!